What's up everyone, Steven here from TechMaker. In this episode, I'm going to show you how to set up Vagrant on your computer so you can run other environments like Linux, for example, which I'm going to need later today when I try to do the, I want to test out the new Aleph virtual machine. So it's like a decentralized virtual machine in the cloud kind of. So I want to play around with that a little bit, but I don't have a Linux, so I need a way to run it on my computer. So that being said, I tested this earlier on my new iMac, which runs the new Apple chip, and apparently, so Vagrant depends on some sort of Virtualbox or maybe there's some other systems that you need in order to run Vagrant, and for some reason, well, probably for obvious reasons, a lot of this stuff doesn't work on the new Apple chip. So I'm on my older MacBook Pro. It's a few years old, and we're going to try it here. So I did find a tutorial that kind of tried to explain how to do it with Docker and all this stuff on a new Mac, but it just seemed like a ton of trouble, and I've got an older Mac laying around, so I thought, hey, I'll just do that. So that being said, let's go ahead and jump into it. So I haven't actually used this computer in a while. I may already have Virtualbox, but I'm just going to try to re-download it and see what happens here. So we'll go to OS X. In my case, you would obviously download whichever one makes sense. And again, like I'm going to just kind of start from scratch. So the first thing you need to do is download Virtualbox. I think there's some other ones, but you can research that on your own. This is more of like I'm going to show you from soup to nuts how to make this happen, not necessarily like an exact step-by-step tutorial that other people make. So if you're new to the channel, that's kind of the dynamic. Okay, so it says double-click on this thing. I'm going to allow, we'll install. I got to put my password here. All right, so this may take a second, so I'm going to go ahead and pause the video, and we'll come back when it's done. Okay, so we'll just click close, and it's offering to move it to the trash. Yeah, sure, let's do that. That disappeared, but it was telling me to open up applications and run it. So it goes ahead and drops a Virtualbox logo down in your applications if you're on Mac. The installation instructions might be a bit different on you have an old version. Do you wish to download the latest one? Sure. Install. Upgrade. This is interesting. Okay, so that was interesting. Okay, I'm gonna quit this and crack it open again and just see. Okay, cool. So just gonna minimize this. I don't know if I need it running or what. So anyway, back over to Vagrant. So really all you just need is the Virtualbox or whatever alternative you want installed. As far as I know, you might need it running. Vagrant might manage that in the background. I'm not sure. So with Vagrant, you can click download and it will give you system-specific instructions. So that's at vagrantup.com. I'm going to go ahead and close these down, and we're going to do this all in the terminal now. So what I'm going to do is basically just do brew install Vagrant here. And again, this may take a second, so I'm going to pause the video as soon as I'm sure that it's actually running. So that actually took several minutes. I think it was just because my computer is probably a bit outdated, and Homebrew actually did some updating. But once that finishes, what you can do is run Vagrant, and it will give you a list of commands, and that will tell you basically that Vagrant's actually installed. So I'm going to go ahead and pull that up a little bit from the bottom. Hopefully that's a little easier to see. And then the next thing that we need to do, I'm going to make a directory here. Let's just do make dir vagrant test. Change down into that. And in order to actually set up a virtual machine, all you have to do is initialize one and specify what kind of box you want. So for example, we can do Vagrant init, and then they suggest this HashiCorp Bionic 64, which is a 64 Linux, I think. So we'll cd down into that. Actually, we don't need to do that. Let's ls. So let's open up this Vagrant file really quick. So we'll just do code dot if you have VS Code set up. If you have a different text editor, you can use that. And then inside of here, sure. Just want to look at this Vagrant file, which you'll notice is actually in Ruby. And there's a lot of things you can configure in here. We're not going to touch it. We're just going to point out that this has specified this vm.box to be HashiCorp Bionic 64. Okay, so now we've got our Vagrant folder set up, or where we're going to have the box essentially. So we have the Vagrant file in there. We've got Vagrant installed. So the next thing we need to do is just say Vagrant up. And basically what this is going to do is it's going to take in the Vagrant file with whatever things we have specified in there, which we just basically have the very simple defaults. And it's going to create a virtual box for us. And so this will probably take a little bit. You can see here it's importing the box and so on. So I'm going to go ahead and pause the video, and we'll be right back whenever this is running. So that turned out to be deeply frustrating to get that working. If I scroll up a little bit, you'll see tons of red errors. And this is the same kind of error I was getting on my other computer before. I still think it probably doesn't work on the new Apple chip. I'm not sure. I would assume that's the case. But in any case, I did get it working, I think, and I'm going to show you what you have to do if you're on a newer Mac. Apparently, it's an error with VirtualBox installs on newer versions of Mac OS. This looks like it's from 2018. So I haven't ran VirtualBox or Vagrant in several years, as I mentioned. I think I mentioned that. I used to do this like back, I think, 2014. I was using this pretty heavy. But it's been a long time, so I'm going to link to this Stack Overflow question in the description in case you're stuck. Go check there. But anyway, I think it's working now. So it finished running Vagrant up. Let me run it again because my computer just rebooted. And if this does work, you'll note I don't actually have VirtualBox running. So I guess you don't need it running potentially. Maybe it's okay just to have it installed and Vagrant will run it. But anyway, I'm going to pause the video for a second. Hopefully this time it doesn't crash. Well, no, here we go. It's finished. So let's see if we can log in. So we'll do Vagrant SSH. And if that worked, that should log us into the system. And so you can see here now that we're in this Linux 8664 Ubuntu system. So that's basically it. You can see that we're basically just in a blank directory here. Let's cd into slash and see where that takes us. So you can see we've got our whole kind of Linux setup here. If I go back into home, that's the home directory. What I want to do really quick just to show you, you see in this slash directory, we have this slash vagrant. So one cool thing we can do is like, we'll just set up a quick file here. So we'll say vagrant, vagrant slash test.txt. And now if we do ls slash vagrant here, you'll see that we have test.txt and we also have our vagrant file. If I go ahead and type log out, it kicks me out of the vagrant, but if I do ls here, you can see that we have test.txt. So we're not going to do a lot else here. I just wanted to show you how to get Vagrant set up, which didn't go perfectly smoothly. I still think this is pretty useful to kind of walk through. But But anyway, in the next video, I'm going to be setting up some stuff with Aleph. Like I was mentioning earlier, I think I talked about that at the beginning. I'm going to try out their new decentralized VM system. So anyway, just to point out one thing I think I kind of skipped over here. So basically that /vagrant folder is the folder that we're in here. So if you create stuff in there, it's shared between the VM and your actual computer. So that's kind of cool and can be really handy in certain situations. So anyway, I think that's it for this video. To stop this thing, we just say Vagrant Halt, and it should actually go ahead and shut down the VM. Cool. So that's it for this video. If you like this kind of content, be sure to subscribe, hit the like button, hit the bell button, all that good stuff, and I'll talk to you in the next episode.